All right, so I want to start a video really quick. Matt here asked if anybody had any recommendations about SSH versus HTTP for use with GitHub. And this is actually a tiny little question that is, everybody has it and we don't really talk about it. So I just decided to go ahead and make a video about it really quick. And I should probably start my poem, but I'll do it later. The short answer is use SSH for everything that you can, except for things that you care about security. So let me give you a for instance on this. So yeah, so let's say for example well, first of all, obviously on your own workstation you should be using SSH. It's faster, it's less quirky, it's more secure because I think it's more secure. You manage the keys. You can take the keys with you to another system, and it doesn't require you to type in a password or anything, unless you're using a passphrase on your SSH keys, which is fine if you want to do that. I don't. For my GitHub stuff, I don't really care if somebody were to break into it. So, I care, but not enough to put a passphrase on my SSH key that I use for GitHub. So this is actually part of a bigger conversation for SSH. So we'll link this video to videos about SSH or GitHub. People might not even know what I'm talking about. So suffice it to say, let me back up a little bit. So if you don't know what we're talking about, there's two ways to access repos on GitHub, or any Git repo, frankly, but mostly GitHub. So let me cd into a temp directory, like temp-d. So we got a temp directory here, and nothing in there. So let's say that I want to make a new repo out of this, right? You guys know how to do this, right? So we're going to use the GH tool. I'm going to do this really quickly, but let's say we're going to make a brand new repo where we do it all without using the GH tool. So you might want to watch, put a marker right here and put, if you want to go learn the GH tool, I could have done GH repo create, and that'll take care of a bunch of stuff for me because I'm already logged in. And by the way, when you set up GH, which is a command line GitHub tool, you also have to make some decisions about where is this thing going to go? How am I going to log in? Am I going to log in with HTTP method or SSH method? It actually asks you during the login process. So I believe that answer should, when you're using GH, it almost should always be SSH. I can't think of a single case where you would want to do that with HTTPS, but you can do that. So, and then we'll actually go into HTTP and show you on the graphic thing in here in a bit too. So to set up a repo, let's go ahead and set up a repo. Just a reminder about how to do this. So we're gonna just do git init to make this into a Git repo. I don't know, we could call it anything we wanted to. So now it's a Git repo. It's not saved or anything. So then we would need to do, I don't know, we could do, the basic thing is you touch a readme.md file. And you read the readme and say initial readme. We're getting there. I'm going to show you the stuff about HTTP in a bit. Initial readme, and we don't want it on master, so I'm going to have git branch to initial. Oh wait, I have to commit first. So add readme. Whoops, I'm going to do the long form of these things. I have shortcuts for all this. So git add readme. We're going to add that file to the Git repo. And now we should be able to commit that. I'm trying to do long form for you. Git commit. Oops, sorry for the swear word. It says I can't be on master, so now I can do branch. So git branch. It's a bad idea to commit to master. Never do that. You can get a Git hook about how to tell yourself that if you want to. Git branch initial. I'm doing an initial because I'm gonna actually change it to main. What is going on here? What? Let's see. Did I do it wrong? What did I do wrong? It's always good for me to do this live so everybody can see how much I suck. I did it. Git commit. Get the fuck out, right? I got it. Give me a break here. Git branch. Wait. Oh, no. VIC. You know what? This is what happens when you use a thing. I forgot how to do a git branch. Git checkout -b, of course. This is the problem with giving yourself shortcut commands. So learn from my mistake there. I'm like Mr. Rogers building the tent on that one episode. So git checkout -b. I'm gonna do long form here. This is good for me. Checkout -b. I would never type that every day all the time. So git checkout dash b initial, and then it switches over to that branch, and you can actually show all the branches. So I have branches. Let me remind myself what my branches actually says. Branches. Yeah. So git branch. What? Oh, right. All right. So anyway, let's try to do the saving now. So now I have a branch, and so I can commit this. So I can commit. It's already been added, I think. Status. That's git status. New file. So then we're going to commit that. It's already been added. So git commit. Oops. I'm gonna try to. This is hard. All right, so git commit. I always use this because it tells me when I'm over 50 characters rather than the -m version. I'm gonna say add initial file. All right, so now there we go. So I'm ready to commit now. Now this is a trick that I have to do to get around the whole main thing, but if you don't, you probably won't need to do this. So at this point, I actually have to branch again. So git checkout dash b main, and that's going to change me over to the main branch. I'm trying to force myself to do the. There we go. So you get branch. You can see we have initial and main. So I'm on main now, and now I can push this because I don't have to. There's no commits to do. So I can go git push dash u. Actually, if you do this without doing this, git push right dash u. If I just try to do git push, it doesn't know how to do it. So git push dash u origin main, and why are you not working? Actually, the specify file from the URL from what we're using what? Oh, right. So this is a brand new one. I haven't ever done this with. So this is good. This is good for me. Add origin. And then, so this is where you can put this is why we did this. So you can either put HTTPS here, or you can put SSH or the Git version. If you do Git, I'm going to do Git at github.com colon, not a slash, by the way, colon rvxrob slash, and there isn't one created yet, so we're going to have to actually go make one. This is GitLab would have done this automatically. So we're going to call this blah2 or something .git. And so now when we do a git push, you'll say, I don't know what to do. There we go. Git push dash setup stream, or you can just do dash u origin main. And it's like, I'm sorry, there isn't one, right? So let's go open one. I'm going to open that same exact file here. It tries to go to the URL GitHub blah2, but it doesn't exist. This is why I would use the GH tool for this, because this would have taken care of it. Man, it's really made me lazy. It's so the GH tool takes care of all this for you. So let's go and we need to make a new repo. So new repo, and I promise we're gonna get to the question again. So repository name blah2 is available, and we'll make it public. It doesn't need to be. I guess it could be private for now. That can all be done from the command line. I never ever use the graphic interface on this. And here's the actual stuff we just did, in case you forget. I'm wondering why it's dash capital M instead of lowercase m at origin. There we go. Git push dash u origin main. So that's, now we can do this. Origin main, and now it should be up here. So this was not supposed to be a lesson on Git. It's supposed to be a video about, why would you use Git versus HTTPS. So if we come back here and if you look at how to get this code, you see here you can pick, oh, that's interesting. They added that. So that's what I would do these days. You can use SSH, which is Git. So the GitHub CLI is not Git, that's GitHub, right? SSH is the one where we have to have a key, and then we have HTTPS, and that's where we could say, okay, I want to get that. So, well, when would I use HTTPS and SSH? That's the real main question here. And the short answer, as I've said before, is you want to do HTTP. I think you should do HTTP when you want to do read only access to one of your repos or to anybody else's repo if you don't have GitHub access. So let's try this. So so for example, I'm on my own system right now, and so I can use SSH. The way to check, by the way, is to do git at this. This is universal for everyone. Git at let's see, SSH. This tells you if you have SSH access. Git at github.com. That works for GitLab or anything else. I wonder if my GitLab ones is even working. I don't know. This just tells you you have access. It closes your connection, but that means your SSH is working, and you don't need HTTP access. So, well, why would I need HTTP access? Let's talk about that for a second. So let's say, and setting up SSH is an easy thing. You just need to go over here and go to your settings and add the key. I guess we probably shouldn't talk about how to do all of that. But you just go down here in your SSH and GPG keys, and there's nothing secure here. These are your keys that you can add, and then you can have multiple of these keys, and those keys are what going to get you, or going to give you the access. What you can have multiple of them from. You can have one for every computer if you want, or you can use the same key and then put it everywhere and then have it be connected. But that's a separate video. So back to why we would do HTTPS. So if you make a new, a brand new computer, and I was thinking about just spinning one up really quick on DigitalOcean or something. That's when you would want to do it. So let me give you an example of that. So I'm going to log into skillstack.sh, which is a shell server, which is going to become a game server later. So I'm looking forward to that. So over here, you could probably see that I don't have GitHub access. I might have changed it, so that's why I'm checking. Okay, so there's nothing there. So mission denied. So even if you broke onto my SkillStack, at that IP number, I don't mind doxing IP there. This is on the internet, and you were able to get into there. You can't do anything, right? But yet I want my configurations to work, right? So this is the number one use case to use HTTP. So I have a repos directory. In fact, I haven't even set mine up over here. This is interesting. So I have none of my .dot files configuration over here at all. And if I want it, I have to go get it from GitHub. So let's do that. So I'm going to follow my normal convention. I'm going to make a directory that matches so I don't get, so my stuff stays organized. I hate having stuff all over the place. So I have a repos directory that I keep everything in. Make a directory for all my RWX stuff. RWX from, and as you can see, the path is starting to match the actual GitHub URL. And so from in here, there's nothing here, right? So now I can get the repo, and I don't even think I have GH over here. Oh, I do. Okay, but it doesn't matter. So let's go. We'll get it. So do git clone, and normally I would do this, right? But if I do git at github.com /rwxrob /blah2, we'll say git, it's going to say, sorry, you can't do it, you have rights, right? So this is a case where I would have to do it as HTTP. If you're going to do it, it's just, you can just, by the way, you can do it if you can use HTTP. This is a really weird quirk. When you're downloading, the question I guess originally was whether you should use HTTPS or SSH. And if you use HTTPS, it forces you to log in with your username and password for GitHub. And that's just a bad idea. It's a bad idea on several levels because your username and password is never, ever, ever going to be as secure as your keys are going to be secure. So for that reason alone, I would not use the HTTPS option. So, but when the question was asked, I actually interpreted it as, should I use HTTP or SSH? So I use SSH for everything that needs to be secure on secure systems. And then I use HTTP for any time I want read access to a thing, just so I can use it without needing to change it. How's it going? So here we go. It says, here's my username. And that's interesting. I know that you don't need it. So, oh, you know why? Because it's private. That's why I made it private. Yeah, let's do something public. So let's do my dot files, which I do this all the time, by the way. I'll like go to a system that's insecure, but I want to set it up to work for me. And then I go into my dot files, but you see how it pulled it down with no problem. And then I can run setup sort of, and then I'll do a bunch of things. And then I get like, now I have a different setup. I'll do a different video about how to set up a dot files like that, but that's why you would do that. As you can see, it pulled down all my dot files and it set me all up. It's got everything here that I need, and like, all my shortcuts are here now. All of this stuff got downloaded. Even my version of Tmux has been downloaded with that one command. So, but back to the HTTP question. So as you can see, if I go in here and I try to change something, or if someone hacks my account on this system, which is, more of a risk. Oh, don't forget to install Go binaries if you're doing GoDev. Okay, but this is what, when you run Vim for the first time, my Vim automatically populates everything for itself wherever you are. It's a little thing that I forgot about, but there you go. So we'll quit that. Is it still? Oh, it's still running. No, we're not waiting for that. It's gonna get all of the Go stuff. We're not gonna do it right now. But so let's say I change something here and I want to save it, right? So, git status, say, oh, okay. So git add build, and then I try to do, a git commit if it'll not yell at me. Oh, and you have to set up all the other stuff. But even if I did that, I'm going to tell you right now, it's not going to work because I don't, this repo, if you look in the .origin file and get whoopsie. So if you look in the config file, you can see that the URL is here. Now, if you wanted to change and start using the SSH one after you set it up, you can do, I'm going to tell you how to way to cheat here. You can actually run the command and change the origin and all that stuff. Set origin, change URL, and change this stage to that. Or you can just edit this file. One of the two. You can just go into this file and make it Git instead. All right. And that will do it. You can actually, this is some people don't know this. This is actually kind of a quirk in Git. You can have two URLs in here. So if you put GitLab over here, you can actually, if you did that and you push to both of those origins, it would go to both places at the same time. So that's a little side thing that I learned over time, or even if it's a bare repo. So it's been a long roundabout way of getting to the answer to the question. So the ultimate answer to the question is what was the where's my things I can put up back on the screen again. SSH, I guess it's not here yet. So SSH or HTTPS for GitHub. So that's really the question. You can use both. The short answer is use SSH and get URLs, get at whatever. There's another SSH URL scheme that we won't even talk about, but use get URLs that use SSH for pretty much everything. And if not, use HTTP to use read-only access to any repo. That includes your repos, that includes Vim plugins from other people, whatever you want to have. You should use HTTP for those that if you don't want to write to those. By the way, if you're working with somebody else's repo, unless you're just pulling it down to mess around and look at it really quick and read the code, which is a common use case, if you want to do anything to it, you should immediately fork it and do all of your messing around with the fork, because there's a good chance you're going to want to change something. But the answer as to whether to use HTTP or SSH boils down to, do you want read access or read-write access? And are you on a system where read access is a better option? Because if somebody breaks into that system, you don't want to give them access unnecessarily to your thing. Now, if you still want to use SSH, and I'll end with this. If you still want to use SSH and do it safely from that system, you can add another SSH key and you can make sure it has a passphrase on it. And if you do that, you at least have a passphrase. So let's say somebody breaks into skillsec.sh. Right now, as I just showed you, if somebody breaks into skillsec.sh on my system, which is more probable than my home system, it wouldn't be that big a deal. Because why? Because they get in there, they can't really see anything. I could throw the whole machine away and nobody care. And they don't have any access to anything. They have the same public access to my public repos everybody else has in the world. But if for some reason I wanted to, and I did this for the students actually, the people I was mentoring for a while, if there's a relatively low risk, even if they break into that, you can make a extra SSH key using SSH keygen. SSH, you know about this, right? SSH, this is another video, so I'm going to go through it really fast. -TED 25519, right? So that's the command you would do. You make yourself a key, and then you take that key, but when it prompts you to do a passphrase, how's it going? When it prompts you to do a passphrase, you say yes, and you put a long passphrase that's easy for you to remember, and then you put that on there. And then anytime you're going to use, the problem with that is that anytime you're going to update anything in the repo, obviously you're going to need to type that passphrase every time. And that's really annoying. So but if you're doing read-only access, so let's say here's a use case. You make some changes to your dot files and you want to update your dot files at work based on your public repo. I have this use case all the time. I'm constantly updating my dot files, but I don't necessarily want to give my work access to my private access to my GitHub repos they own the laptop that I use. Technically, they could take over control of my laptop without me even authorizing it, technically, and they could say, you've got this nice, pretty key set up. We're going to access your stuff and do whatever we want. So, and obviously they wouldn't do that. But if they did, then, they would have access to my private repos and everything on GitHub that I might not necessarily want to give them. So what do I do instead? I maintain my dot files from my own computer. If I need to make a change or I add a new command, I add a new command on that system. I log into it, either SSH into it remotely, or I sit down and make the changes, and then I commit the changes to GitHub, and then I go over to my work computer or to skillsec.sh up in the insecure cloud or whatever, and I do git pull from the HTTP one that I started having, and then it pulls down all the recent changes. Now, sometimes I'll pull down a recent change and I'll realize, oh, this doesn't work in my work environment, but it works in my private environment. I had to do this before. And then I have to go, the iteration cycle for this can be a little bit tedious, but at least it protects you from giving, unnecessary private access to your GitHub repos or any Git repos, frankly. So, and that's why you'll see a lot in my dot files. You'll see hooks in there that look for like a bash work RC file or a private RC file, because those are different repos, and in the case of my bash work repo, it doesn't even exist in the public. It's up on my company's own enterprise GitHub repo, and I pull that down, and that one I have read-write access to because I'm constantly changing it for work. And so I can combine that with my other public repo, HTTP, and then I do a git pull anytime I make a change to that. So hopefully that hasn't been too confusing, but you have only one system with read and write permissions and the rest only have read permissions. Yes. Yeah, if there's no reason to give a system access, at a certain point it becomes annoying, and you might want to say, well, I'm just going to give it, push access to it. But like in my case at work, I spend so much time on that work system that switching back and forth to change my dot files is so annoying. I'm going to tell you right now, I haven't done it yet. I'm going to tell you right now that I plan on giving my laptop commit access, read-write access to my public GitHub repos, because I don't want to have to log back and forth. But when I do that, I'm going to be sure to put a key that has a passphrase on it so that anybody in my company, in some random desktop support person, I don't know if you know this, but like in some enterprises, when you go in there just to have them deal with your VPN, they have full control over your computer. They can move the mouse and everything and look around and everything. I'm not comfortable giving that kind of access to any organization over my stuff. So if they were to if I do that, I still have the access to my system, but I have a passphrase that I can do. And that's, in terms of IP, there's also that question too, right? So I just think it's a good idea to just have clean separation between your source code, your public source code, and your private source code. So if I'm more of a stickler about it and I say, okay, I'm going to force myself to sit down on my system and make these changes, then even the most pedantic legal team couldn't make an argument that my dot files now belong to the company. And I'm a little bit paranoid about that stuff because, I've been around the block a while and I know how legal teams are for software companies, and they can get, really, really, my current employer is not that way, thank God. I mean, they do protect their IP just like every company, but the point I'm trying to make here is if there is, that clean separation is in your best interest. Just overall, it's in your best interest. But if you make commits to a public dot files repo and you're just pulling down a public repo to manage your dot files, that could be anybody's dot files, right? And so that separation is healthy. There's sort of a gray area if you make it so that you can commit to GitHub and it's still a public repo and you're committing to it from your work machine. I mean, they could make the case that you made that change to your dot files on company time, therefore they own that change to the dot files, blah, 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 blah. Do you know what I mean? So if you, better safe than sorry in that particular thing is literally don't do any personal work ever on a work resource. And that way, any open source work, anything like that, just make sure you have a computer for that. And if you want to do it from the same computer, there's nothing wrong with SSHing into your private system to do that work for a little tweak to your dot files during the middle of your workday. SSHing over into that. You watch Silicon Valley and learn that lesson. Yes, that is actually, there's an episode in there where if you even log into the laptop to do it. And so, it's if you have, this comes back to the SSH HTTP thing. If all of your repos on your work laptop, even though they're your repos, if they are read only, there's no legal team on planet Earth that can successfully make the case that you did personal work on an outside open source project on company time. It's impossible because you have always had to pull that stuff. That means that any time you've spent doing that has been on your own system. Then they could try to make the case that you did it during their hourly time. But if you're a full-time employee and you're working 24/7 anyway, that really grays the distinction between work day for the company and work day for yourself. But more importantly is that you're actually writing new code on a business resource and committing it. And that would be SSH access to get or whatever. And then they can make the case, well, why would you, I'm being devil's advocate here, but what the lawyer would be asking you, well, why do you even have SSH commit access to GitHub, to your GitHub repos if you didn't do any work for doing it that way? So, well, it's just more convenient. So you're saying that you've actually committed changes from this laptop to your personal dot files repo. You're saying that you're admitting that you did that. And as soon as you admit you did that, they own that change because they can say that they have a legal team that says any work you do on this asset belongs to them, including your personal work. I know it sucks, but that's one reason to keep the distinction. You didn't know you were going to get a whole legal earful talking about the difference between SSH and HTTP. And again, this is for HTTP, not HTTPS. HTTPS is stupid. You should just probably never use it because it's neither as secure or good or as convenient as SSH is, which is the private option, the secure option, nor is it fully read-only. Right. So it doesn't, because if you have HTTP access, that means that, they could argue that, oh, well, you're logging in using HTTPS to make commits. So it defeats the entire purpose of having a read-only copy of a repo on a work system or some other system that you want to be secure. So there. It depends, Matt. It depends on the policies. It's not an exaggeration to say that companies have come after people for committing code to from work systems that is not related to work. All right, so that's kind of the way it is. And I got to tell you, I'm once again I'm struggling with this because for me, particularly because I'm a streamer, I tend to overthink things, no doubt. But I'm going to be there's a really strong distinction for me between, so here this is the really hard part about this. And I'll end on this if you want to talk about SSH and HTTP. We're kind of into the weeds now on why you would do that. When you have, I almost need another video on this. In fact, let's do that. I'm going to do another video on this.